We are going to take a look at linear inequalities today, and a linear inequality is something that relates two variables using an inequality symbol, such as y is greater than 2x minus 4. The boundary line is the line that divides the coordinate plane into two regions, one that's going to be shaded that includes the answers to our inequality, and one that will be not shaded that are not solutions to our inequality. So I want you to remember that when you're doing these, you have greater than or greater than and equal to. Those you're going to shade above the line. If you have less than or less than and equal to, you're going to shade below the line. Then if you have greater than or less than, it's going to be a dotted line when you graph your line. And if you have greater than or equal to or less than and equal to, you are going to have a solid line when you graph. So those four things you need to remember when doing this. So example 1 says graph each inequality. So I'm going to draw a coordinate plane here. And if you look at this, it looks like it's an mx plus b form. The only difference is it doesn't have an equal sign, it has an inequality, so that's perfect. So 1/2 would be our m, which is our slope, and this +1 would be our b, which is our y-intercept. So on the y-axis, we're going to put a dot at 1, at +1, and then our slope is 1/2. So from that dot, we're going to move up 1 and over 2. So we'd be right here. We're going to put another dot. And then now it's time to look at our inequality symbol. It is not underlined. That means we're not going to include the answers that lay on the line. So we're going to have a dotted line. And then that symbol is also less than. It means less than, so that means we're going to shade underneath of our line. So for part B, we're going to do the same thing. Notice there is not an x here. So what that means is that the slope is 0. So this equation is really 0x plus 2, because that 2 is positive. So our b value, our y-intercept, is +2. So I'm going to put a dot at +2. And our slope is 0. So that means we're not going to go up or down anything, but I can move left to right. So we can put a dot here, we can put a dot over here. It doesn't matter. It's going to be a straight line, horizontal line here. But looking at our inequality, it is greater than or equal to, so that's a solid line. So we're going to make our solid line here. We're including any point that lays on that line. And then y is greater than, so we are going to shade above that line. So any ordered pair that falls into this shaded region is going to be an answer to our inequality. Example 2 is the same thing. We're going to graph this one. The only difference now is they're not giving it to us solved for y. So we have one extra step. We have to solve these for y. So we're going to make an upside down T. And we're going to get rid of that 2x. It's positive 2x right now, so we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. So bring down the 3y, bring down the sign, and then 6 minus 2x we can't do. They're not like terms, so we just write 6 minus 2x. Then we divide both sides by 3. So the 3's cancel, we have a y, bring down that sign. 6 divided by 3 would be 2, and -2 divided by 3 is going to stay -2/3 with the x. So now we have to graph this. And our y-intercept is +2, so we're going to put a dot at +2. And our slope is -2/3, so that means we're going to go down 2 and then right 3. Our inequality symbol is underlined, so this is going to be a solid line. and y is greater than this, so we're going to shade above the line. So I know in the past I've always had kids that were confused on what's above the line, what's below the line, depending on how the line is sitting. So I've always said, think about if you were to sit on the line, where would you sit? What side would you be on if you were sitting on it? That is the above side. So if you're confused when you're shading, think about that. Okay, moving on to example 3 here. It says a local theater charges $7.50 for adult tickets and $5 for discount tickets. The theater needs to make at least $240 to cover rent of the building. How many of each type of ticket must be sold to make a profit? And then if 20 tickets are sold, how many adult tickets must be sold? So, and that last question is the second part. We have to answer our first question here. How many of each type of ticket must be sold to make a profit? Well, we are going to have $7.50 for adult tickets. So we can say 7.5 times X. And then we're going to sell tickets for $5. Those can be Y, and you can put in whatever letter you want. And we need to make at least $240. So we need to definitely try to make more. So we want our price over here for the tickets to be hopefully greater than or at least equal to $240. So how many types of each ticket must be sold to make a profit? To get our line, we can do one of two things. We can solve this equation for y, which looking at the numbers, we're probably going to have quite a bit of decimals and that kind of thing. So that might not be our best bet here. We might want to try to find the intercepts, which is simply just plugging in a 0. So if I want the x-intercept, I'm going to plug a 0 in for the y. So I'm going to have 7.5x, and then 5 times 0 would be 0, so that's gone, is greater than or equal to 240. So then I'm going to divide each side by 7.5. Answer is 32. So our x-intercept is going to be 32 right now. And then for our y-intercept, we're going to do the same thing, except for we're going to put a 0 in for x. So 7.5 times 0 will be 0, so that's gone. So we would just be left with 5y is greater than or equal to 240. And then we'd have to divide both sides by 5. So y is greater than or equal to is 48. And so our y-intercept is 48. So if you think about this, our number of tickets, x and y, we can't have negatives. So we're going to have to make a graph that's just in quadrant 1 because it all has to be positive. So our x-intercept is 32. So maybe I'm going to go by tens, 10, 20, 30, 40. So 32 is going to be pretty close to there. And then our y-intercept is 48. So you can go by tens again. And 48 would be somewhere in there. And then to graph, if we look back at our inequality, it's underlined, so it means it's equal to. So to connect our dots, we would have a solid line. And one more time, it's only going to be from that these 2 points because it has to be a positive number of tickets. And then if we were graphing them, we want to make a profit. So we want to sell more than these tickets or more than this. So we want to sell anything, any ordered pair, any combination of those tickets that would fall out here into that shaded area. And then our second question says, if 20 discount tickets are sold, how many adult tickets must be sold? So our discount was our $5 ticket. So they're telling us that we sold 20 of those. So if I plug in 20 for our Y, and solved this, we would have 7.5x. 20 times 5 is 100. And then I'm going to have to subtract 100. So I have 7.5x is greater than or equal to 140. Divide both sides by 7.5. So x is greater than or equal to 18.6 repeating. So that means it's more than 18 tickets. So I can't sell a fraction of a ticket. So we're going to say that he has to sell, or this place has to sell more than 19 tickets to make a profit, 19 adult tickets to make a profit. Okay, so now using a graphing calculator, I'll go over these steps in class with the kids that are face-to-face because those are using the calculators that we have at school. For those of you at home, I suggest using Desmos graphing calculator, and I'll show you what to do there in a second. So the first thing we have to do is solve this for y. So I'm going to distribute that too. So I would have 6x minus 8y is greater than 24. And then I'm going to minus 6x from both sides. So I'm going to have negative 8y is greater than 24 minus 6x. And then I'm going to divide by negative 8. And remember with inequalities, if you divide by a negative, you have to flip that sign. And 24 divided by negative 8 would be negative 3. And then we would have negative 6 divided by a negative 8, which would become positive 6/8, which is the same thing as 3/4 x. So what you can do then is go to Desmos graphing calculator and type in y is less than negative 3 plus 3/4 x. And it graphs the line, it makes the dotted line, and it also shades in the area that needs to be shaded. So that is desmos.com/calculator for those of you at home.